When you're over 80, loneliness can slowly become the backdrop of your days. It creeps in quietly, and before you know it, silence is your most constant companion. But this isn't the end of your story. I want to gently walk you through 7 hard truths and offer simple, comforting ways to bring warmth and connection back into your life. Let's start with something many of my older patients feel but rarely talk about: losing their circle. It happens so gradually. A friend moves, away a spouse passes, neighbors change. Suddenly the familiar voices fade and each day feels just a little quieter. This loss of regular human contact doesn't just bring sadness. It can raise your blood pressure, disrupt your sleep, and even affect how clearly you think. I remember working with Walter, an 84-year-old retired mailman from Ohio. After his wife passed and 2 of his longtime buddies moved into care facilities, he told me, "I go days without hearing my own voice." Another woman I knew, Carol, 87, from Arizona, used to attend weekly bingo nights, but after her sister died, she just stopped going. "It's no fun alone," she said. Both of them didn't even realize how deeply that silence had taken root in their lives until they started to feel the weight of it physically. Tiredness, confusion, that vague feeling of being lost. What helped? Small steps, simple outreach. One of the easiest ways I've seen people reconnect is to pick just one person, maybe an old friend, a niece, or even a neighbor, and make a habit of calling them once a week. Choose a set time. Sunday, afternoons at 3, or every Wednesday morning. It's not about long conversations, it's about showing up even with your voice. And here's what I want you to remember. Your voice still matters. Somewhere out there, someone is thinking of you. Someone would smile to hear from you. You're not a forgotten chapter. You're still part of the story. Here's something many people don't expect. As you age, your body gets quieter. The E, signals it once sent. Thirst, fatigue, discomfort can grow faint. But just because your body isn't yelling doesn't mean it doesn't need care. In fact, ignoring these soft signals can lead to dehydration, low energy, dizziness, and even hospital visits. At this stage of life, subtle neglect can have big consequences. I once worked with Margaret, 87, from Virginia. She told me she barely drank water anymore because she never felt thirsty. She thought it was normal, just part of getting older. But over time, she became weak, confused, and ended up in the hospital with severe dehydration. Another client, James, 85, from Oregon, used to nap constantly. We discovered he wasn't sleeping well at night, skipping meals, and spending most of his day in dim light. His body was trying to tell him it needed something, but he didn't hear it clearly. Once we talked through it, he began setting reminders for meals, water, and short walks. Within weeks, his energy improved. What often helps is building a simple routine that includes care for your body. Drink a glass of water 3 times a day, stretch your arms and legs in the morning, and open your curtains to let in sunlight. These are tiny acts, but they keep your body engaged. You don't have to overhaul your life, just listen a little more closely. Your body may not speak loudly anymore, but it's still speaking, still hoping you'll listen with kindness. Let's talk about something that sneaks up when you live alone. Mental quiet. Not peace, not calm, but a kind of stillness that leaves your mind unstimulated. When you don't have regular conversations, surprises, or new information coming in, your memory can start to fade, not because of illness, but because it's not being used. Just like muscles weaken without movement, the brain softens in long stretches of silence. I had a client named Paul, 82, from Nevada. He was sharp all his life, ran a small business, read the paper daily, loved chess. But after buying Taisa, his wife died and he stopped seeing friends. His days got slower. He told me, "I walked into the kitchen and couldn't remember why. I lost words mid-sentence." His daughter noticed he was leaving the TV on all day for background noise, but wasn't really watching it. That kind of passive quiet is deceptive. It feels like something's happening, but the brain is just floating. I also think of Rose, 86, from Illinois. She used to keep a journal but stopped writing after her arthritis got worse. "What's the point?" she said. When I asked what she did during the day, she said, "I mostly wait." That broke my heart. The brain doesn't thrive on waiting. It needs movement, ideas, stories, questions. One thing I often suggest is reading aloud. Even just one page a day of a newspaper, a novel, a letter. It engages your brain more than silent reading because it activates memory, speech, and hearing all at once. If reading is hard, try telling yourself what you did that day, like narrating your own life. Today I made oatmeal. It reminded me of when my kids were little. That's memory exercise. You don't need to fill every minute, but a little mental stretch each day keeps your mind awake. Think of your brain like a lamp. It doesn't burn out when it's used. It dims when left off too long. And the beauty is, even a small flicker can light the whole room again. Something I hear often, especially from those living alone, is a quiet fear of becoming a burden. It's not always said out loud, but it's there, under the surface. Many older adults avoid asking for help, even when they truly need it, because they don't want to trouble anyone. But here's the danger, that fear often leads to isolation and accidents. The more you try to handle everything alone, the more you risk falling, getting hurt, or simply feeling overwhelmed. I remember Ruth, 89, from Idaho. She lived in the same home where she raised her children, full of memories and stares. When she broke her arm slipping on a rug, her daughter offered to bring in a part-time helper. Ruth refused. "I don't want anyone fussing over me," she said. A few weeks later, she fell again, this time hurting her hip. The second time, it wasn't just about pain, it was about fear. She admitted she'd been struggling with basic tasks but didn't want to be seen as weak. Another man, Thomas, 86, from New York, had trouble opening jars, reaching shelves, doing laundry. But he laughed it off. "I manage," he told me. The truth was he hadn't changed his bed sheets in 3 months. These aren't rare stories. They're common, and they come from a good place, pride, dignity. But sometimes those very things leave you vulnerable. What I suggest is this. Pick just 3 tasks that are starting to feel hard. Maybe taking out the trash, going grocery shopping, or sweeping the porch. Share that with someone close, a friend, a family member, a neighbor. Let them know that their help wouldn't be a burden. It would be a gift. And if no one's nearby, look into local community services. There's no shame in accepting support that keeps you safe. Asking for help isn't giving up control. It's taking responsibility for your well-being. You're not weaker for needing others. You're wiser for knowing when to reach out. Think of it like holding a railing when walking downstairs, not because you can't walk, but because it makes the journey steadier. There's a quiet ache that comes when your roles in life begin to fade. After retirement, after the kids move out, after years of caregiving or working, many older adults start to wonder, what am I here for now? It's not that they want to be the center of attention, but that feeling of usefulness, of being needed, starts to disappear. And when it does, loneliness slips in, not just as absence of people, but as absence of purpose. I remember Leonard, 85, from Texas. For decades, he was the go-to handyman in his family, fixing broken chairs, unclogging sinks, rewiring lamps. He loved helping. But after his arthritis worsened and his family moved out of state, no one called anymore. "They've got YouTube now," he joked, but there was pain behind the laugh. He stopped fixing things, stopped offering. "What's the point?" he said. Then one day, his grandson asked him to help build a birdhouse over the phone. Leonard talked him through it step by step. He told me later, "It felt like I came alive again." Another client, Betty, 88, from Georgia, used to bake cookies for her church every Sunday. When she stopped attending, she thought her baking days were over, but she started mailing cookies to her grandchildren with handwritten notes. "They wait for them now," she smiled. What I often recommend is this. Identify one thing, just one, that you know well or enjoy doing. Maybe it's organizing family photos, growing houseplants, writing letters, or telling stories. Then find a simple way to share it with someone. It doesn't have to be big. Small acts of usefulness create connection. You are not done giving just because you're not working or raising children anymore. Your wisdom, your skills, your presence, they matter. Purpose isn't about productivity. It's about knowing someone is glad you're here, and trust me, someone is. Over time, loneliness can become so familiar that it stops feeling strange. It settles into your routine, quiet meals, silent afternoons, early bedtimes. You may even start telling yourself, this is just how life is now. But just because something becomes routine doesn't mean it's right for your spirit. Prolonged isolation can dull your senses, sap your energy, and make even small joys feel out of reach. It's not just about missing others, it's about forgetting how connection feels. I think about Beverly, 86, from Colorado. She'd been widowed for several years and told me she hadn't had a real conversation in months. I don't mind. The quiet, she said at first. But when a neighbor invited her for a short walk around the block, something shifted. Beverly told me afterward, I forgot what it felt like to laugh with someone. That one walk turned into a weekly ritual. Then there was Martin, 90, from Missouri, who used to be active in his local veterans group. After a bad fall, he stopped attending. They won't miss me, he said. But when someone called and asked if he'd like a ride to the next meeting, he went. He came back beaming. I didn't realize how much I needed that. These stories aren't about huge changes. They're about how easy it is to forget the warmth of company when silence has become your normal. What I usually suggest is a small outing once a week. It could be as simple as walking to the mailbox, visiting the grocery store, or sitting outside on a bench where you might see others. Even being near people, hearing voices, seeing faces, can gently reawaken a sense of belonging. You don't have to accept loneliness as the final chapter. Even a single step into the world outside can remind you that connection is still possible. You haven't lost the ability to be part of life. You've just been quiet for a while. It's okay to step back in. One of the hardest beliefs to challenge after 80 is the quiet idea that everything important has already happened. It's a thought that creeps in on slow days, when routines feel stale and goals seem behind you. And when no one expects much from you anymore, it's easy to stop expecting things from yourself. But here's what I've learned. Purpose doesn't retire. Hope doesn't age. The future might look different, but it's still yours to shape. Once worked with Frank, 90, from Pennsylvania. He'd been a school teacher, a storyteller, someone who lit up a room. But in recent years, he mostly stayed home, watching reruns and eating meals alone. One day, during a conversation, he mentioned all the stories he used to tell his students. I asked him, "Have you ever written any of them down?" He laughed and said, "Who'd care now?" But he tried. A few weeks later, he showed me a typed page, then another. Eventually, his granddaughter helped him start a small blog. Within months, he had hundreds of readers. "I feel seen again," he said. Another woman, Dolores, 88, from California, set a goal to learn how to use video calls. "I want to see my great-grandbaby," she said. It took time, patience, and some frustration, but she did it. Now I talk to her every Sunday. She blows me kisses through the screen. What often helps is to choose one small goal, something personal and meaningful. Maybe writing letters, learning a new recipe, organizing photo albums, or planting herbs by your window. It doesn't have to be grand. It just needs to move you forward, even a little. You're not living in your shadow. You're still standing in the light. As long as you can breathe, think, feel, you can still begin something. The future isn't only for the young, it's for anyone who's willing to walk toward it, one hopeful step at a time. If even one. How of these truths spoke to your heart today? I'd love to hear it. Share your thoughts in the comments. What helps you feel less alone? Your voice matters here, and if this brought you comfort, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and life isn't behind you. It's still walking beside you, one quiet, beautiful step at a time.